At the 2015 NAFB convention in Kansas City, I'm Mark Dorenkamp, and I'm at the booth of 25 by 25 visiting with Bart Ruth of Ruth Farms in Nebraska. Bart, before we talk about some of the things you're advocating for here at Trade Talk, tell me a little bit about your farm.
Well, we have a roughly 2,800 acres of mixture of irrigated and non-irrigated crops in Nebraska, corn and soybeans, predominantly in a no-till environment. Raise a little bit of corn for a local dairy and involved with that same dairy, utilizing the nutrients back from the dairy onto our farms through our center pivots.
You're involved too with 25 by 25. Tell me about your role and why it's important to you.
Well, 25 by 25 is entering its second decade, and I've been involved not quite from the beginning, but close to it, and currently serve as co-chairman. And we've seen considerable progress over that 10-year period in moving our nation toward our target of 25% renewables by the year 2025. Progress has been a little slow at various times because we've had tax incentives that are there one year, gone the next. Public policy regarding ethanol and other biofuels was popular, and then it's kind of popularity's waned. So some of those things have been a challenge. We've kind of lost the political will as a nation to move our nation forward and reduce our dependence on foreign oil. As we've seen oil prices continue to drop and fuel get cheaper at the pump, people lose sight of the end game, which is making ourselves more independent.
An opportunity today to talk to farm broadcasters from all over the country. What's your primary message?
Well, I think we need to continue to stress the importance of moving toward more energy independence and producing homegrown fuel from America's rural areas, which varies across the country. In the Midwest, it's obviously biofuels. Other areas, it's solar. Other areas, it's wind power, biomass in other areas. And hydro still has a role in certain areas in the country. So I think we need to continue to pound that message and encourage people to talk to their policymakers and to move us forward. And also, these things all have a very positive effect on the environment as we're looking toward dealing with climate change and adapting to that climate change and moving forward in that regard.
Talk about some of the best management practices that you're using on your farm, things that will benefit not only the environment, but longer term will help your farm be sustainable.
Well, I think we're trying to adopt more of a climate-smart agriculture approach. So we're using the newest technology, and really every input that we put on our farm is geo-referenced, through mapping, and so we know what's going on where. We're utilizing that technology to apply fertilizers where it's the most beneficial, where we can get the most bang for the buck. All those things work hand in hand. Conservation tillage, better selection of hybrids on certain areas and certain parts of our farms. All those things go hand in hand to not only add to the bottom line, but they also have positive impacts on the environment.
Are cover crops something that you've implemented on your farm?
We have. We typically have a couple hundred acres of corn that's chopped for silage, so that comes off early. So we've been using a mix. This year we have rye, turnips, and radishes out there, and got tremendous growth. And we've seen the benefit that causes, not only from the wind erosion reduction over the winter, but benefits the following year with soil tilt improved, and I think also the added benefits and the nutrients that it puts back into the environment.
And finally, back to renewable fuels, what will it take to drum up increased support for things like the renewable fuel standard so that there is federal support for renewable fuels that gives farmers the certainty they need, and not only farmers, but the ag sector in general, ethanol plants and biodiesel facilities that need that kind of long-term certainty to move forward?
Well, I think, we continue to try to get the message out and dispel some of the myths about renewable energy, and so that's key. But I'm afraid that unless the public sees gasoline prices back in $4 range, we get complacent and think it's always going to be in this $2 to $2.50 range, and we don't look long term. So that's the challenge, and we need to continue to get folks in that are directly involved in agriculture, getting that message out again. Because even as an industry, we've lost a little bit of that focus. But we have to recognize how important that bioenergy is to rural America, whether it's ethanol plants, whether it's biodiesel plants, whether it's people building grain trailers, people selling farm equipment. That's a very integral part of rural America, and we need to continue to stress the economic role that bioenergy plays.
For farmers more interested in the things that you've discussed with me, where would you reference them if they'd like more information?
Well, I would take a look at 25by25.org. Also, Solutions from the Land has a great presence on the internet, and so we continue to try to reach out in various media to get that message out, like being here at Trade Talk again this year.
With Bart Ruth, I'm Mark Dorenkamp at Trade Talk on Brownfield.